Carrie Graham for president.
Okay, everybody. Let me see if everybody's filing into our little virtual theater here. Just a sec.
Good.
Hi,
there you are.
My laptop was giving me a hard time, so I jumped on with the phone because I wanted to make sure I was on, but I'm not sure what it's doing. But I'm in the kitchen. I've got chocolate chip cookies ready to go.
Okay, guys, we are officially live. So welcome to another episode of Hollywood Kitchen. I hope everybody had a chance to watch the interview with Wyatt and the incredible tour of Francis D's kitchen that he gave us. Thank goodness that Ruth was able to shoot this and we got this in the can before Omicron hit. So I am so happy that that worked out the way it did. So welcome today to my special guest, Wyatt McCrea, grandson of actors Joel McCrea and Francis D. Betsy Metzgar, who is the head docent of the McCrea Ranch, and my friend and TCM superfan, Ruth Munsack. So welcome, you guys.
Thank you, Carrie. Thanks for having me.
You could all be here. So we have done the interview part. Now we're going to get to cooking and show and tell. So this is going to be a lot of fun today.
Cooking,
and Ryan, I found some recipes attributed to Francis and Joel, and you suggested that we make the chicken paprika, which came from Francis's copy, her personal copy of the Brown Derby Cookbook.
Well, and the reason I suggested that, Carrie, is because as a young person, when she would babysit us or whatever, I just always remember her making chicken paprika. That was one of her specialties. And of course, my grandfather just loved food, so he would eat anything. But I mean, everything was his favorite. So this was right up there with one of the ones that he loved the best. But I just remember her chicken paprika, because paprika was such a strange word to me as a child. So it was very interesting to be in the kitchen with her while she was making chicken paprika. So
well, I'd love to go ahead and start making, because I have the chicken in the pan right here.
Let's roll.
Ruth, are you cooking along with us too?
Yes, I am. I've got my chicken here. I patted it dry. I salt and peppered it, and I'm ready to get it in the pan to start browning it.
Okay, that's what I'm going to do too. I'm going to salt and pepper mine really fast here. I was just saying off camera, but I'll say it on as well. My kitchen is very tiny and my smoke alarm is very, very sensitive. So if my smoke alarm goes off, it will wake up half of Los Angeles if they're sleeping. I will put myself on mute and I will be running around like a maniac if this happens. So just to give everybody a heads up to carry on without me should this occur.
I think it's a fire department.
Basically, I think my neighbors are kind of used to my ubiquitous smoke alarm problems at this point. All right, so I've got my hot plate. We're going to turn it up. I've got some butter in here. So we're going to start browning that chicken. And also the other ingredients we will need for this today are, we have some diced onion.
Ooh.
Now it called for pastry cream, but I am going to use sour cream, which I think is an acceptable substitute. We have 1 tablespoon of paprika. We have a 4th tablespoon of celery salt. The butter is in here. And yeah, I think, oh, the chicken broth is right here. So we have 1 cup of chicken. We were talking off camera too about the way Frances would cook things. She didn't often always go by the recipe, right?
No, that was one of her fortes. She just loved to cook, and so I think as a young person, as a young married woman, she probably followed recipes more than she did as she got older. As she got older, it was just a pinch of this, a pinch of that, and whatever happened to be in the kitchen, she'd make it work.
You know what's funny is I'm sure my mom is watching this. When I've been home to my family's home in Georgia, I'll watch my mom make something like a hawk, and then I'll get back to Los Angeles and I'm like, okay, I'm going to recreate Mom's Southern potato casserole. And then I'll do it, and it still doesn't taste as good as she did it. I'm like, what did she do that made it that good? And I've never cracked that case yet.
Carrie, I agree with you on that. I didn't, my grandma Munsack, my dad's mom, on a farm in Wisconsin, you know, feeding lots of farmers, hungry boys and stuff. And she just was in that kitchen morning, noon, and night. And I never saw her. I know she wrote down stuff because some of my aunts, you know, had recipe cards, index cards that she would write little things on and make notes for people. And I think she like gave her daughters recipes and stuff, you know, to make when they got married. And so it's really cool. And then I learned that I didn't know my biological grandmother on my birth mom's side, but she was an excellent cook. And my cousins tell me all the time, she just would get in there and put in some and stir this. And she had really good muscles because she was whipping, you know, pies and that kind of stuff. And so I thought, this is just so cool.
That's great.
And you did mention too that Joel McCrea loved chocolate chip cookies. So Ruth and I looked up a 1930s recipe for chocolate chip cookies that was made by, I got to look at my notes here, that was invented in the 1930s by a woman named Ruth Wakefield at the Toll House Inn in Massachusetts.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah, I figured it was period appropriate. So Ruth and I have already started whipping up our chocolate chip cookies too before we went on camera here. My mom takes a minute, but I'm slowly browning the chicken here.
My mom, who was a great cook, was always said that my grandfather was the easiest person to cook for because he appreciated anything that was any kind of food that he could get. So.
I have a feeling that was the lifestyle of a lot of men back in the day, especially when they worked these really physical jobs, you know, and they would come in and, you know, personally, it's like whatever's in front of you, they had to devour, you know.
That's right.
I was going to ask you, when people visit the ranch, they get a boot kickin' chili recipe card, which I have one of those. And where did that recipe come from? I figured you would know the backstory on that because since it's a ranch, the boot kicking chili sounds like a very hearty, robust ranch type meal.
Well, that came from my grandmother, but it was kind of one of those recipes that was by the seat of her pants. You know, it was one that she just kind of put together as something quick to make when she couldn't find anything else, you know, and the reason we give that out to people when they come is it's kind of an easy recipe. It's easy for people to relate to, I think, and so people have had fun with it. They've made it, given us comments back, so they've all tried it. There again, I think she always made it extra special by whatever little pinch of this and pinch of that she put in it. So I don't think anybody could make it quite the way she made it, even given the recipe card. So.
And Betsy, also there was a custard you had mentioned too, which we figured a custard making that on camera might be like super difficult.
Yeah, you have to be very attentive and stir it so it doesn't scald. But Wyatt says it was delicious. I wish I could have had it, but certainly there was an abundance of fresh milk and eggs at the ranch with the dairy cows and the chickens. So it must have been delicious.
That was something she loved to make. And for me as a kid, it was just, I don't know, I'd never had anything quite like that. It was, as I mentioned earlier, kind of a mixture between a milkshake and thick cream and a custard all in one. It was just, it had a flavor all to itself. There's no doubt about it.
This is sizzling now. So, okay, it's sizzling. So now I'm going to add onion and saute 1 minute or more. Okay, add the onion. Sorry for the loud sizzle noise here.
You froze on us.
Are we having a moment?
Ruth, are you there? Wyatt, Betsy, are you guys there?
Now you're back.
I know you're a multitasker, but I've got 2 videos of you on my screen now, so.
I'm trying to figure out how to not do that.
Okay, well, meanwhile, if you can hear me over the sizzling, I am sauteing the onions. And it smells really good. Every episode, I always wish I had smell-o-vision so you guys could smell how great this is.
Yeah,
I can smell it. I do have my apron on today, even though I'm not in the kitchen. I do have my apron on.
I love it. I love it.
That's
So
awesome.
maybe I'll go throw some flour around later so it looked like I did something. But
Oh, you should. Okay, now it says add paprika and mix well. So we're going to add the paprika here to the chicken. I'm going to stir this up. Okay, and then add pastry cream, chicken broth, and celery salt. So I'm going to add 1 cup of.
it's sounding pretty good.
Okay, maybe that'll make the sizzle sound a lot less because it's been very loud in here. Okay, we're gonna add the pastry cream, or in my case, the sour cream.
Betsy, I love your background. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yes.
What is that background, Betsy? Tell us what
that is. The McCrea Ranch, and I'm sitting next to the visitor center where we hold many events. And then the road behind me goes up to the family house. And you saw the tour of the kitchen that was up in the family house. So it's been a little dry.
Hello? Are you guys there? Hello? Ruth?
like your
Wyatt?
picture.
Oh, good.
Is the internet freezing on us today?
It did.
You're frozen from time to time.
But you're back on right now.
You're good.
Okay. All right. So I put the celery salt and the chicken broth and the sour cream in here. This is what it looks like right now. You can see that. I'm going to cover it and let this sit for about 18 minutes. So I'm going to set my timer here. And Betsy, tell us how you first became involved with the ranch, because you really do a fabulous job of giving tours and helping to promote the ranch. Tell us how you got involved with it.
Well, I live in the area and I'm interested in the ranching history of Ventura County. And I'm also a huge classic film buff and have been a fan of Joel McCrea and Francis D. for a long time. My husband's a filmmaker, and so he's taught me a lot about the wonders of classic film. So with those two interests, local history and classic film, it's just ideal to come here and volunteer. And it's just great fun to be here. I've been with the docent program since we started it, right, Wyatt? 2011 when we opened the Visitors Center. We have a wonderful group of docents. We're kind of a small group, but we're tight-knit and we're devoted to helping Wyatt preserve the legacy of his grandparents and the ranching history of our area. So it's just a real special place to volunteer. And we meet great visitors.
On social media after this episode and on the HollywoodKitchenShow.com blog, I'm going to post a link to the ranch. So if people want to attend events at the ranch or visit, they can find out more information. Tell us about your summer screening series that you do.
Wyatt talked about it in the video, but we do show movies outside during the summer, Joel McCrea or Francis D. movies. And as he mentioned in the video, when we show the Westerns, we tend to have surround sound when the coyotes in the hills start to howl and the horses that live on the ranch talk to the horses on the movie screen. So it's great fun. But we do show movies year round, just about every month. The rest of the year, we show them inside here in the Visitors Center. Our next movie will be on February 12th. We happen to be showing my favorite Joel McCrea movie for the first time. It's called Reaching for the Sun. It's kind of obscure, directed by William Wellman. It stars Joel McCrea, Eddie Bracken, and Ellen Drew. And I got to tell you, Joel and Eddie are a great comedy team. There's this one scene where they attend a class for expectant fathers to learn about how to care for newborn babies, and it's just hilarious. So we have lots of fun showing the movies.
It's a fun movie. Yeah, it's a very
really, and there's some very poignant scenes too, with dramatic. So you see the range of Joel's ability as an actor.
Ranch is fun to come to. So for people who are coming to the film festival this coming April, make sure you plan ahead, and we can look at working with the ranch to get a tour going for, before the festival. Some people come in ahead of time, and then some stay a day or two later to get some other things done and hang out in Hollywood. And this is a perfect time. April would be a lovely time to get to the ranch. So feel free to talk to us on our Facebook page, because there's a lot of activity going on and people are talking about all the things that they're going to be doing, as well as the Hollywood Forever Cemetery tour by Carrie Bible. So get your plans in, people.
Right. So Wyatt, I see that you are surrounded by movie posters there, and would you like to kind of show and tell us what you got here?
Well, if you'd like to. I mean, I've got posters all over the place, and some I don't even have up. I have thousands of them, but some of my favorites are Ride the High Country, which is right behind me, and I would pick them up, but some of them are heavy to pick up. So Ride the High Country, which is the last big picture my grandfather did with Randolph Scott, which is a fantastic Western, still considered by many one of the top 10 Westerns of all time. So that's a good one. I've got the Virginian up here at the top, which, let me see, there up at the top is the Virginian. And that, of course, has significance because of it being the time period when my grandfather decided to make, after he made that, he only decided to make only Westerns from that point forward. And with the exception of one film, the rest of his career was Westerns, and the Virginian was made in 1946. So about half of his career was comedy and drama and that sort of thing. And then the latter half of his career was primarily all Westerns, which is what he really loved to do. So for him, doing a Western was like just another day having fun, because he was doing it at home on the ranch. He'd step on the back of a horse. And so to get paid for it and be filmed for it was a pretty good way to make a living as far as he was concerned. So,
it seems a shame that the Westerns have kind of vanished from the big screen these days. You see them on streaming or on television, but it kind of goes in cycles in terms of being, on a big screen, really.
Well, and the industry has changed. I mean, with the invention of the internet and streaming and all those sort of things, and with companies like Netflix and Amazon and so many of those streaming companies putting big money into films now, into what they're doing, into their original content, that's where a lot of the big budgets are. That's where the money is, and it's hard right now for films to be released theatrically. They're just not that many outlets as there used to be, and of course the pandemic has even added to that, I think, because theaters were closed for a while, and now that they're back, people just got in the mode of the streaming sort of thing. But you've got some great Westerns on. Taylor Sheridan, who is very popular now, for the creator and writer of Yellowstone, and he's got his other series, which is a spinoff of Yellowstone, which is 1883. Which, if you've had a chance to see that, it's actually very well done production, very authentic, and much more traditional in the sense of a Western, as opposed to Yellowstone, which is a little more contemporary for sure. But
how come you weren't in that, Wyatt?
I don't know. You got to ask Taylor. Put the word out there. I don't know. I'm lobbying him, but there are Westerns being made. More of the bigger budget ones are going to streaming. There's no question about that. There's just not a lot of huge theatrical releases. But there have been. This last year, there was probably a dozen fairly good Westerns that came out. So they're out there, and people are trying to make them. It's just trying to find the right outlet for the biggest audience, so that people will jump on the bandwagon again.
You mentioned Yellowstone, and we do have speakers coming out to the ranch as part of our event offerings. And on March 19th, Rudy Ramos will be coming out to talk about his career, and he is appearing currently in Yellowstone.
Yeah, Rudy.
People. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say Rudy plays the role of Felix Long in Yellowstone, which is the grandfather, the Indian grandfather, and he's got a great little role. It's a recurring role. He comes and goes, but yeah, he's had a very long career on top of that. But Yellowstone has been a real feather in his cap here lately, for sure.
Yeah, Rudy's a great supporter of the ranch. So is Bruce Boxleitner. And he was just at the ranch yesterday. He gave a talk about his Hollywood career and for 2 hours regaled the audience with his tall tales. And it was a great hit. So we have a lot of fun with our speakers. We've had some.
That does sound like a fun afternoon listening to Bruce Boxleitner, because he is that quintessential kind of cowboy. He has a little of that Joel McCrea in him. When you see him on the ranch and stuff like that, he's very at ease, in that role. So I love seeing him as a cowboy.
Yeah, he visits the events often, and he narrated the welcome video that we show at the ranch. We've had speakers also, of course, regarding the golden age of Hollywood. Meredith Pontitel came and talked about her Aunt Dottie, who was the makeup artist for and a very good friend of Francis D, among many other Hollywood stars, including Marlene Dietrich and Joan Blondell, Judy Garland. So Meredith gave a wonderful talk. We also had Margaret Talbot out here. She is a writer for the New Yorker, and she's written a wonderful book about her father, Lyle Talbot. So when we showed the movie Our Little Girl, that starred Lyle Talbot and Joel McCrea and Shirley Temple, Margaret came out and did the introduction, and she gave a great presentation. So lots of fun speakers.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun at the ranch, that's for sure. We try and bring out whoever we can that would have an interest and a connection to both my grandparents in Hollywood, as well as potentially the ranching side and in the historical side of the ranch. Well,
one thing I did want to talk about, because I can't recall if we went into this in the videos or not, but the ranch is so beautifully preserved, and it's so amazing to see that, because in Los Angeles, it seems in particular, things are renovated and or destroyed and knocked down and changed constantly. So to see something like the McCrea Ranch in such a beautiful state of preservation, can you talk about kind of what goes into that, some of the process, and what you've been working on recently to kind of maintain and upkeep that quality in the house?
Well, I'm happy to hear you say it's beautifully preserved, because that's a constant work in progress. There's no doubt about that. And of course, our goal was when we donated most of the property, which we have done or did do several years ago, to the Conejo Recreation and Park District, which is our local park district. Our main goal was to preserve what was here and to preserve the history of the ranch, because as you mentioned, Carrie, so many of these kind of things are torn down and either developed or paved over, or whatever the case might be. And this ranch is fairly much untouched from its heyday when my grandfather bought it back in the early 30s and all through the time he had it. With the addition of a few things here and there, it's pretty much the way it was. And so it's kind of a throwback in time. And to me, it was important to preserve that history of the local area and the local farmers and ranchers. And also because of his tie to Hollywood, it has that aspect to it as well. But it's a constant challenge. And we're a nonprofit. The McCrea Ranch Foundation is a 501c3. And so we rely on donations for most of the restoration work that we do here. We've been very fortunate in that Conejo Recreation and Park District is very supportive of what we're trying to do here, and so they have offered us some matching grants and some avenues to garner some other funds for restoration. But it's a constant challenge, from painting the buildings to repairing and restoring old fence that's 80, 90 years old, or even older in some cases. The oldest building we have on the ranch, the bunkhouse, was built in 1890. So it's 132 years old now. So, and we did a 6-figure restoration on that back in 2018. So I kind of move from one building to the other, but our main goal is to make sure that what we have here continues to stand so that people in the future will have something to come and see. But our latest project has been up at the house. We've repainted the kitchen where we did the video, where we did the interview. We've repainted the dining room area. This last week, we repainted the guest room, and this week we're repainting the master bedroom. And then we've done some restoration on the old chicken house, which is behind the bunkhouse, which was just completed in the last month or so. And so there's just always those kind of things that are going on. And in addition to trying to bring people out for our events so that they can be exposed to what we're trying to do here. And hopefully they like it and will help support us. So it's a constant challenge, but we're making some headway, and I'm proud of what we've done so far. And we've had a lot of help. And of course, Betsy and the docents have been fantastic in supporting the events that we do. We couldn't do it without the volunteer help we have. There's no question about that.
Last summer, Ruth and I got to visit the ranch for a TCM club gathering, and you let me feed the horses, which was so exciting. I'm such an animal lover, and that was so awesome. Can you tell us about the animals that are on the ranch today? And
you're in special company, Carrie, because we don't let everybody feed the horses. But we were happy to let you do that for sure. But no, right now, I mean, it's not a working ranch per se anymore. I do plant the field once in a while, which is the field is about 30 acres that I do farm from time to time. It's all dry land farming, which means you rely on the rain. So the last few years we haven't gotten a crop because we just haven't had the rain. But I usually plant oats for oat hay, which I feed to our horses. But the only animals that are on the ranch right now are the 3 horses that my wife and I have, and then we have 1 chicken left. So anyway, I'm on the hunt for a few more chickens, but right now I've got 1 chicken left. So, but we have a variety of wildlife that moves through here because the ranch as a whole, what's left of it, and originally the ranch was about 2,400 acres, but now there's about 350 that's left, and so we're kind of an oasis for wildlife in the middle of a lot of urban area and population. But so we have, a lot of raptors, hawks, that sort of thing, owls. We've got a lot of coyotes that move through. Once in a while, a few bobcats and the occasional mountain lion, which we haven't had for a while, but they do wander through once in a while. So we're kind of a haven for a lot of wildlife. There's no doubt about that.
I hope there hasn't been a wildfire problem there, because I know that's been a huge problem here in the state of California.
Yeah, we've had them all around on both sides, and 2 years in a row, I happened to be out of town, and it was November both years, 19 and 20, I guess it was, and my wife had to evacuate the horses and herself and the cats and everything else, and I missed all the activity there, which she was not very happy with me about, but that's the way it goes. I was on the road, but yeah, we knock on wood, we've been fortunate that we haven't been touched, but we have had them all around our perimeter. There's no question about that. So yeah, it's when you go through these drought times and the vegetation just gets so dry, it doesn't take much to get it started, and there's a lot of brush and a lot of fuel for some of these fires. So hopefully the rain we've had lately will help mitigate some of that to a certain degree, and we'll get out of this drought cycle, I hope so.
And the local fire department actually had an engine on standby right at the ranch during one of the fires because they realized how important this area is, this ranch, as a community asset. So they were standing by.
I'm glad to hear that, Betsy, because I was going to say that would be, for such a beautifully preserved property, that would just be devastating to.
Yes, that would be, and it is frightening, to even hear that there was a fire just recently in January. It's like, we don't have wildfires in January. Come on.
We're not supposed to. That's true.
We're not supposed to anyway.
I was very grateful when I was on the road that last fire, and like Betsy mentioned, they had an engine up at the house, up at the main house, as well as a couple down below here. But I was in constant contact with the chief of police here locally at that time, Chief Hagel, Tim Hagel, and he was texting me and he said, "Don't worry, I've told the fire department we're not going to let the McCrea Ranch go, so you guys better be on the ball." So anyway, I was very grateful that they put the effort behind it. So
otherwise, they'd have some rabid classic film fans, and no one wants that.
They have no idea what to deal with.
What you said about the fire department, that actually kind of plays into that whole sense of community that you talked about, how all the farmers kind of took Joel under their wing and taught him about farming, and then the women kind of helped Francis adjust to farm life. It sounds kind of like that spirit of looking out for each other and community is still very much alive up there today, and that's a beautiful thing to see.
It really is. You know, Thousand Oaks has grown a tremendous amount in the last 25, 30 years, but it still has that hometown feel to it. And there are still a lot of old timers around here that feel that sense of camaraderie and that sense of community. And it's a great place to be. And I'm very grateful to be a part of the community and kind of continue that spirit with the folks that have been here for a long time. And a lot of the newer people that have moved in have come out here because they want that. They want that sense of community, and that's why they've moved here. So it's great. I mean, it's really a great place to be.
It's important to have that, especially when things are hard. It feels so good to know that there are people who care around you, even if they're not personal family or friends. It's right. That kind of reaffirms your faith in humanity, knowing that strangers care, or people around you care.
Yeah, no question about that. Yeah, it's an important aspect of life, I think, and something that people need to remember. That we're all in this together, one way or another.
I believe that's true.
Things get bad, I'm going to make it to the ranch and hunker down.
Ruth, are people asking questions on Facebook?
That's what I was just getting ready to pop in and see.
By the way, I've got lots of steam here. Ooh. I'm going to try to get this in front of the camera so you can see what it looks like.
Oh, it smells good.
It smells good. I was just going to say that.
I can tell you, the kitchen is smelling really good. I love the smell of sauteing onions. Oh my gosh.
This recipe is surprisingly easy to make, because when I did the test bake, I always get a little anxious on those because I'm like, I hope I don't screw this up. But this was very simple to make and really delicious. So I'm really happy to have discovered this recipe thanks to you.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, definitely. Ruth, what are they asking on Facebook?
I see that Kelly Pratt is on and saying that we love this. Doug Greaves is on and he says, what about a barbecue for our group, our West Coast bloggers and whatnot?
Doug's famous for the barbecue.
Yes,
yes.
Yes.
Do you know what I would love to do when we can with this pandemic? Is maybe have like a big TCM party and we all make recipes attributed to classic Hollywood stars. Wouldn't that be fun? Everybody brings like a Hollywood star kind of recipe and we have a big group event.
Yeah,
Cary Grant barbecue chicken. I know Ruth wants to make
a big
potluck.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
Wyatt, one of my favorite movies of your granddad's is Foreign Correspondent.
Right.
I can watch that movie over and over again and love every moment of it. And he, and he's really young in that movie too. And he's, great looking Lorraine Day. I mean, George Sanders. So the repartee that they had was really cool in the way that they would talk to each other. And I miss that. I wish movies had that kind of really great dialogue.
It's a great film. And of course, I think a great deal of the success of that film goes to the director. I mean, Alfred Hitchcock was a wonderful director, and that was a great film. A lot of people may not know, but it was nominated for Best Picture that year and lost out to Rebecca, which was Hitchcock's other film that year. So, and that was a big film for my grandfather's career. I mean, it had a lot of critical acclaim and a lot of box office success. So yeah, it was that whole period from the late 30s all the way into the early 50s was really probably when he made some of his best films. There's no doubt about that.
Travels. That's one of my favorites.
What's that?
I love Sullivan's Travels. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, well, you can't go wrong there. I mean, Preston Sturges was just a brilliant writer and director, and he, you know, my grandfather always felt like he could relate to Preston's dialogue. I mean, they just kind of had a rapport with one another, and he just, my grandfather had a great dry sense of humor anyway, so it was, they had a lot of fun making those, no doubt about it. And of course, Sullivan's Travels still, you know, a lot of film schools use that for various aspects, it's a great picture. There's no question. That's one of my favorites for sure. We're right up at the top.
And Ruth, what's your favorite Frances D movie?
Oh gosh, I love Finishing School. That's a favorite of mine. But I like the one where Joel and Frances are on that island. Is it Dr. Moreau? Where they have to get off the island, and he's, you know, and the guy's trying to kill them, and the dogs.
That was The Most Dangerous Game. That was actually Fay Wray that he was.
Oh, Fay Wray, excuse me, Fay Wray. I love that movie.
Yeah, that's a good movie. Early special effects in that movie are pretty amazing. When you watch the shipwreck and that sort of thing, it's pretty obvious that it's a model, but it's very interesting to see how far films have come from the special effects in that day to where they are today. It's just.
And then the one where
it was the King Kong set, right?
Yeah, that was the King Kong set. Yeah, they used a lot of the same set for sure. And you guys have probably heard me say this, but the guy that's hunting them, you know, has a bunch of Great Danes that are supposed to be his hunting dogs that are supposed to be chasing after. Well, they loved my grandfather. I mean, my grandfather was an animal person anyway, so he had a hard time keeping the dogs back away from him, going with the other actor, because they just wanted to hang around with him all the time. So it's kind of funny, just interesting backstories on those things.
And yeah, I'm a big pre-code fan, so I love Finishing School. I love Frances and the pre-codes. I love An American Tragedy. That film is kind of under the radar for a Joseph von Sternberg film, but it is, and I think that's really interesting. An interesting film. Yeah,
it's a great film. It really is. It does fly under the radar. I'm not sure why that is, but it doesn't get a lot of the credit it deserves, I don't think. But,
and then TCM just had on one with the mother, the overbearing mother.
The Silver Cord. That's the one where they met.
That was a really weird movie. Like, oh my God.
It clearly was a play that they had just filmed, because it was just people sitting in a room talking without a lot of, other stuff. But it was just fun to see them together.
Yeah. And of course, that is kind of where the romance blossomed a little bit. So it has special meaning, or had special meaning for both of them for sure. So it is an interesting film, though. I think anytime you try and adapt some of those stage stories to the screen, it's sometimes hard to adapt them in the same way, but have the same effect.
And of course, Frances was in what I think is the best version of Little Women, 1933, with Katharine Hepburn, who was just born to play Jo.
That's my favorite version as well.
Yes, I love that version. I really do. Nothing against Jane Powell, but I really love that version.
And I cannot let this conversation go without mentioning I Walked with a Zombie. I love Val Lewton. Big Val Lewton fan here.
It's a great movie. It really is. My grandmother thought it was such a goofy film to make, and she never thought it would do anything. And now here it has this huge cult following, it's probably one of her better remembered films, which always made her laugh because she couldn't believe it. But it actually, I watched it not too long ago, a couple of months ago, and it's again, I don't know how many, I've seen it 100 times probably, but it always hits me as, when I sit down to watch it, I don't think of it as a serious film. The more I get into it, it's actually a very good film. It's actually very well directed, and the storyline might be a little off, a little goofy, but she does a fantastic job in it. I mean, she's really good in it. She I don't know, she's just pretty good piece for her, for sure. So,
cinematography is fantastic, right? Cinematography.
Yeah.
And I Walk with a Zombie, play of shadows.
I'm sorry, Betsy, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, I was just saying the cinematography in I Walk with a Zombie is outstanding. The play of shadow and light, it's really spectacular.
As a noir,
a whole lot with very little. He was kind of a master of that, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, which you had to do back then in some cases, for sure. Yeah, you had to make the most of what you had. And then, you know, there's one film I wanted to mention that I failed to mention in our interview, but one of my favorites with my grandparents is Wells Fargo, the two of them together. It's
yes, Wells Fargo is fun.
Yeah,
I love Westerns. I'm a huge Western fan. And you fall in love with them all over again when they have these different other characters. Because, you know, it's so different from like a Foreign Correspondent or Silver Cord.
Right.
And then you go into the Westerns and it's just, there's something really, and I like the code of the West back in the day, and there's something about it that's just, you know, and the food probably was really good, and the biscuits, and you know, so I have this whole fantasy about what it must have been like. Now I wouldn't want to live back in that time, but I do have a romantic nostalgia for it.
Well, that my grandmother was great in that film, and if you watch it again, you listen to her Southern accent, which is very, very fun to listen to her do. But yeah, it was a good pairing of the two. There's no doubt about that. And of course, that was a huge budget film in its day. I mean, Paramount, it was one of the most expensive sets Paramount had ever built during that time when they recreated San Francisco, which was actually recreated right out here at Paramount Ranch, you know, outside of Agora here. So really close to the ranch here.
And the director, Frank Lloyd. The director was Frank Lloyd, who had won 2 Academy Awards, including Mutiny on the Bounty, and he directed Francis in Souls at Sea with Gary Cooper. He was good family friend, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. No, my grandfather really enjoyed working with him. Both of them did. Yeah.
They had to have been so happy being together and making a Western. That had to have been like the coolest thing.
Yeah, well, that's
kind of funny to me. Wyatt having your granddad having this ranch, and then you know going and working on a Western. Was like, couldn't they just come up there and film for a little bit?
Well, that was early. You know, that was 1937, which he wasn't specializing in Westerns yet at that point. He was still doing a lot of other things, but I think that just whet his appetite for sure. That you know that was where he wanted to head with things. But yeah. Very good film, though, I think.
I'm going to pop online here and see what...
Yeah, see people are saying if you have any questions.
Will the chocolate chip recipe be posted?
I will post that. Yes.
Hey, Carrie, I love your picture there, too, in the foreground that you have in front of your flowers.
Yes, on every episode, I try really hard to have a nice bouquet of flowers and a beautiful frame of the topic of our episode. And this is an Art Deco frame from the 1930s. And in it, I have a gorgeous picture of Francis and Joel on the beach together.
Very nice.
I thought was such a lovely photo of them, young, beautiful, having a great time together.
Maybe some of your classic film fans would like to hear from Wyatt about who would come visit the ranch.
Yes, it was a who's who of Hollywood visiting the ranch, right?
Well, a lot of people came out. I mean, people always ask me, did they have big Hollywood parties? They didn't have big Hollywood parties. They were not big party people in that sense. But a lot of one-offs came out, you know. Gary Cooper, of course, who was my grandfather's probably best Hollywood friend, was a frequent visitor. Alfred Hitchcock came out. Katharine Hepburn came out. Maurice Chevalier. People like that would come and go, you know, and maybe spend the night if they got here late and didn't want to drive back into town, because in those days it was about half dirt road. Once you left the San Fernando Valley, it was gravel road the rest of the way out here. So they'd either spend the night, or they might just come out for the day, or they might come for the weekend, that sort of thing. So yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
Strike me as entertaining on the level of like Hearst and Marion Davies. Like that's not that kind of Hollywood party.
No. I can see them at the ranch just really having a good time, letting their hair down, just, you know, no makeup, just, you know, just being themselves.
Yeah, well, they were pretty much. Yeah, I mean, when they weren't, you know, we're making a film or in town for some other reason, they were just out here. My grandfather was very hands-on with the ranch. He was either working or helping, whatever was going on at that time, whether it was cattle work or farming work. He was right in the middle of it and part of it. And of course, my grandmother was doing her things with the kids or whatever it might be. But yeah, there's, William Wellman was a visitor on a very frequent basis, and Bill Jr., William Wellman Jr. has some great stories about learning how to ride a horse out here and riding with my grandfather and that sort of thing. So it's fun to hear those things, because those folks would come out just to get away from all the city stuff, and this was a great place to come and spend an afternoon, no question about that. So yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Well, I know that every time I come, I always have a great time when I'm at the ranch, and it really makes you feel like you've stepped away, from all of Los Angeles for a little bit.
And when we were working on this episode, I went into Lantern, the website where you can search the history of movie fan magazines and movie periodicals. And I found a whole fan magazine spread of Frances and Joel at the ranch together. And I sent you guys the images from that. And I'm going to post them on the Hollywood Kitchen blog too. So you can kind of get a little glimpse into a fan magazine article about them.
I actually have that fan magazine. I have the one of the original copies, but that's a great article. There's no doubt about it, and some great photos there. And that was, shortly after the house had been built, and they were fairly newlyweds at that time. So it was a fun article to see. Yeah. And some great photos. Yeah, some great shots.
Fan magazines are such treasures, and a lot of the time they are very, very expensive. And not only that, but they're very brittle, because I have some of them and you just open the pages and they start to crumble. So Lantern is like the greatest thing since sliced bread. If you've never been on it, for those of you watching, just Google Media History Digital Library, and it will take you to this thing called Lantern, which is like the greatest thing since sliced bread and like the wheel or something. But
there's some great resources out there these days, for sure.
Oh yeah, it's a wonderful way to search and learn about film history.
One of our film friends, Kelly Pratt, she says one of her favorite movies is The More the Merrier.
My grandfather and Jean Arthur, that was a great pairing. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, and they had a lot of fun making that. My grandfather had a lot of fun, and George Stevens directed that film, and there's a lot of ad lib there, when they're on the steps together, when he and Jean Arthur are on the steps together and he's got his arm around her. That whole scene was ad libbed, and she didn't know what was coming, and he kept putting his hands all on her, around her, and it's a pretty fun scene to watch, knowing that it's ad libbed.
And I didn't know that it was ad libbed, but it is perfect. It just, you could see that happening in real life, to a couple sitting up, and just not sure. But Kelly, you're right. It's truly one of the funnest movies. And again, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead.
Yeah, no question. Yeah,
I love that line.
Which he won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in that, So that was.
Our friend Barbara from down in San Diego, she asks, did Joel and Frances keep a lot of memorabilia? Did they have any idea how valuable and important it would be?
They did keep memorabilia, and they really had no idea how valuable it would be or important, because I found a ton of stuff just in the barn and cardboard boxes that the silverfish and everything else has gotten into and eaten the edges off of, but they had just stuff stashed everywhere that they really had no idea anybody would ever be interested in any of this kind of stuff, and which has been a treasure trove for me, because I've got a ton of stuff that they just had no idea, they just stuffed in the corner somewhere because they didn't think anybody would ever have any interest in this. But you don't, when you're younger like that, you don't realize, where things are going to go. Nobody knew the internet was going to be developed, and even in their day that television would be developed and that sort of thing. They never thought their careers would go beyond, the initial showing of that film. I mean, then it got stuffed in a vault somewhere, and they didn't think anybody would ever see it again. So it's the way everything has developed over time. That's what's caused these things to become more valuable, is because people are still associated and still can watch these films and can still know who these people are. So it's great that to have all this technology, I guess, that allows people to be able to relive those lives and those years, and it's there again for the memorabilia side. It's great for me to open a box that may not have been opened in 50 years and find something that's very cool in there. So,
do you think they would be astounded today if they knew how much people still love them and watch their movies and love their work?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, no, I don't think they would have had any idea that people would have been still enamored with them. The advent of television was an amazement for them because, their shows would get repeated on the late show at night or whatever. They were not new releases at that point. But I think they would be amazed that that people would still have an interest after, 80 years, 90 years, that this is something they made in 1930 would still have appeal to somebody today. So
yeah, it always amazes me how many stars just didn't know that they would have this kind of staying power. And I just feel like that's why it's so important that we have resources like the Media History Digital Library, Turner Classic Movies, the Criterion Channel, and various places that really help interest newer and younger generations in these artists and in their films.
No, I'm very grateful to those outlets, and of course TCM has just been a fantastic avenue for a lot of people for many years now, and without TCM, a lot of these would have never been shown, and probably people would have forgotten about them had they not shown an interest and started a channel to preserve Hollywood history. I mean, it's been a fantastic resource. There's no question about that.
I personally camped out for over 2 hours to get into finishing school on opening night at the TCM Film Festival. And I bet Frances would have been pretty darn shocked to see people doing that.
She would have been amazed, and especially the fact that they had to have a second screening of it. I think that would have blown her away. Probably not that many people came the first go around, So.
And the fact that I couldn't get in the first or the second screening and schlepped all the way out to the ranch to see it.
That's good though.
Yeah, Wyatt and Jeffrey Arnold did a great intro to that movie at the festival.
Yeah, Jeremy.
Jeremy, excuse me.
Yes.
Yeah, Jeremy.
Yeah, no, it was fun to do that with Jeremy. Yeah, no, he's of course he's written some great books for TCM and whatnot, but Jeremy's
he's a fun guy. He really is. I love learning more movie history because I'm just a fan. I don't write anything. I hashtag a few things and I'm just a geeky fan. And I love when I learn so much from these movies, and as I watch them over and over and see different details and look at them in a different spec, or follow a different actor, down a rabbit hole. And boy, you can, especially with the internet, you can fall down a rabbit hole.
Well, yeah, and the internet sometimes is you get some information on the internet that may or may not be quite accurate, but
yeah.
But yeah, no, Jeremy's great in that sense as a historian. I mean, he's got some great background on a lot of different things and has done a lot of research over the years. And so it was fun to be able to do that with him, no question about it. And he's been out to the ranch several times. He's come out and come to screenings we've had. And so we're always great to have Jeremy out for sure. So
yeah. And I've had a lot of fun myself when I've been able to come and be a typical tourist and, go through the center and, again, discovering little bits that I didn't know each time, being able to watch a movie with other fellow like-minded fans. And it's just a great little intimate experience and to be, in their home where they hung out and had a really good time.
Yeah, we think of it as a retreat when you come out here. We have these variety of fun, interesting activities. Wyatt's there to tell you about the family and the feel-good story about them living out here. And it's all in this bucolic setting. I know all the docents notice when the visitors leave, most of the time they've got a little extra spring in their step because it's been such a nice getaway to come to a special place.
I think I said it in the videos too, but it feels so different from Los Angeles. Like Ruth and I went up there together to shoot it, and I was joking. I go, Ruth, are you sure we didn't wind up in Nevada? Because I don't feel like I'm anywhere near LA right now. I feel like I'm in a different world.
Yeah.
No, that's the funny part about it. I mean, you know, you're as the crow flies, you're only, you know, 30, 40 miles from the center of LA, but it feels like a different world. There's no question about that. And that's what's great about, you know, preserving this area, is because even though we've got everything built up around us, we've got this little throwback in time. When you come through the gate, it could be 1935. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much just the way it was, you know, which is, I think, what's appealing to people, because it's like it's something they've never really experienced in their lifetime. So.
And the beauty of living in Los Angeles is you do get lots of different environments that you can live in. Because right now, you know, our mountains are full of snow, people are skiing, but I'm looking out my window here in Huntington Beach at my friend's place, and it's beautiful, you know, so, but yet we can drive out to the ranch and not see, you know, a high building or anything like that. And, you know, horses running in a field and, you know, open space, which is rare for California, open space.
It is these days. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So why don't you mention the website where people can get information about upcoming events and how to register?
Yeah. You can go to McCrearanchfoundation.org. And that's the best way to go on. That gives you a little history of the ranch and as well as what we're trying to do here. And then there's a listing of events, upcoming events. And then there's the phone number and the registration link so that you can register. We require at this point registration for all our events. And especially now we have to keep our numbers at a certain level because of the whole COVID thing. But yeah, that's where they can go, McCrearanchfoundation.org. So.
Wyatt, I am a part of an admin for the Going to the TCM Film Festival page. So if there's information that we need to know for, you know, coming out to the ranch, vaccinations or things like that you guys need, I can put that information on the site if you want to just email me, whatever, or how many people can be on a tour, anything like that, so we can help people plan ahead.
Yeah, we can work through that, Ruth. Yeah, at this point, there's, as far as our county guidelines go, there's no social distancing requirement and no mask requirement outside. If we're inside, then we have a mask requirement at this point. But
do we have any other Facebook comments?
So we have Julia Ricci. She says, I camped out for the first screening of finishing school. It was fun. Kelly Pratt is like, I was one of those lucky ones who hustled in line and got to see finishing school. And then a new person to me, Gail Crawley, she's like, love this, my support group for my lifetime addiction to classic film and stage.
I think finishing school, honestly, I think that was the sleeper hit of TCM that year. Like I know every year at the festival, there's always one film, usually a more rare title, that just comes out of the blue and just people go nuts. There was one year I tried to get into Double Harness with William Powell, I think like 3 times, and I could not get in. It was like that was like the sleeper hit that year, you know. So school definitely had a huge moment.
You always got to have one, you know, that's for sure. I remember Susan Bisak telling me, are you going to be available on Saturday? Because I think we're going to have to do this one again. And I said, sure, I'm happy to come back. So, but it was great. I mean, I was very surprised to hear that it had that kind of appeal for people and that they were that excited to come and watch it. So enough to sell out two theater fulls. So that's great.
Oh yeah, pre-code is like catnip for many of us. We do not resist that stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting. The pre-code stuff is very, very interesting. There's no question.
Well, I can tell you this, my kitchen is smelling absolutely wonderful. It's Sunday, so there's Sunday dinner about to happen. You know, I'm at some friend's house, so they get the benefit of eating all because I use chicken thighs because I like, you know, bone in. You just get, you know, much more flavor when you do a bone in. And you can't just cook chicken paprika for one. So I invited myself over to my friend's house to use their lovely kitchen. And we benefit of a visit and a lovely meal.
You could have come out here. I would have let you use my kitchen.
If I would have known that, Wyatt, I would have hustled right on in the car and come right up.
If I had known I was going to get Sunday dinner out of it, I would have said something.
I managed to cook chicken paprika for one, I have to say, because I'm by myself, but I just used a chicken breast, and here's how it turned out.
Ooh, very nice.
I made some noodles to go along with it, and A friend of mine, Daryl Rooney, gave me a Brown Derby plate from the original Brown Derby. So I'm going to eat mine off a Brown Derby plate.
Well, I will give you our display when we serve dinner a little bit later with the little side of veggies and some steamed rice and a salad. And I will post my picture because I just can't, I got to do the whole thing, you know, and I really enjoy cooking. So, you know, I got to, you know, so now it's like, okay, what's a party?
Got to set dress it.
Yes, yes.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so grateful, Betsy, Ruth, and Wyatt. Any final thoughts today or anything you'd like to say before we log off?
I just want to thank you, Carrie, for having us on and focusing on my grandparents. That was a lot of fun. And I always enjoy talking about them and their careers and of course, the ranch. And it's I'm just very grateful that you had us on and wanted to revisit those days.
Well, thank you. And thank you for letting Ruth and I invade the ranch, take footage. That was extremely kind of both of you to let us do that. And we are very grateful.
Yes. Yes.
Our pleasure. And I hope you and your viewers will come and visit again one of these days.
Come on down.
Definitely. And we hope that, you know, everyone watching will come to the TCM Film Festival and come out to the ranch. And even if it's not during the festival, people just want to get together, give a shout out. You never know, you know, who's available, who might want to, you know, need a day on the ranch.
All right. So on that note, happy trails. And thank you so much for watching us on Hollywood Kitchen.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.